Chapter 29. The Danger of Acting on Incomplete Information. What? Why? I'm afraid it will take more than 2 minutes to explain. Joy Park, who we had been told not very long ago was holding Marconi hostage, ran down the path behind him. She shouldered past him and kept running down toward the orifice, yelling, "We have to get it out!" John, Amy, and I were all rapidly trying to figure out if this was, in fact, the right thing to do, but Marconi was already hustling after Joy, so it was either follow them or watch it happen. Ted had just emerged from the orifice, covered in slime, yelling for everyone to clear out, saying there was fire in the hole. In response, Joy was waving her arms and screaming like a maniac at Ted, shouting at him to remove the fire from said hole. Ted looked very, very skeptical. Rather than try to scream a rapid explanation to convince him, Amy had the ingenious thought to simply yell, "We think there's another kid in there!" Ted cursed and dove back in. We all waited around the orifice, hearing faint squickling sounds from deep inside. We were well within the blast radius of the device. How much time had passed? I was just about to suggest we all flee, when Ted squishily emerged from the birth canal for the second time. He was cradling the mucus-covered bomb, which had about 2 inches of fuse left. He whipped out his combat knife and sawed off the fuse at the root. The next time somebody tried to light that thing, they'd only have seconds. Marconi nodded and said, "Very good, thank you. First things first. Please call down the dive team. I'll explain everything. Also, your daughter is up in my tour bus with her mother. Please go to her. She's distraught." He turned to Joy. "Go up and stall the Christ's Rebellion bus. Tell them I need to have a word before they leave with the children. They will be skeptical. Convince them." Ted and Joy headed up the path. John said to Marconi, "Okay, what's the deal? You saying the bomb won't work? Will it work up on the larva up there?" "It will work, just not how you think. The brimstone ritual." I said, "The what?" "The burning sulfur. You're creating literal fire and brimstone. It will in fact pierce the larvae's skin, as you witnessed for yourself. And that is precisely what it wants. That's what allows it to hatch. It's the final stage in its life cycle." I said, "Its life cycle depends on us happening to invent a sulfur and thermite dildo gun at exact right time?" "Not exactly that, but yes." Amy said, "Oh God, why didn't I see it? The Mikey larva wasn't maturing or hatching or anything else until John shot it. It only hatched because we tried to kill it." Marconi said, "Think of it like a rash. Have you ever been infected with ringworm? You scratch it, it spreads. The spores attach into your fingernails. To prevent its spread, you cannot—" "Scratch the itch," said John, nodding thoughtfully. He looked at me. "Don't let them scratch the itch. That's what I was trying to write on your asshole." I said, "Wait, why would John and I have built that sulfur dildo cannon when we were on the sauce if it was just going to make the situation worse? We should have been under the sway of profound cosmic insight or whatever." John said, "I know exactly what happened. You built the dildo gun. I disagreed with the plan. That's what we were fighting about when the sauce wore off. Looks like you owe someone an apology." "What? Who?" Marconi said, "We had assumed the larva's camouflage was targeted only as the host parents, that it needed the parents only until it completed some life cycle over the course of time. However, I now believe that death, a violent death, is required for its final emergence. It's not as if the concept of transcendence to a higher plane of existence via death or martyrdom is unheard of in our mythology." I said, "So why not take some horrific form that people couldn't resist killing? Why bother looking like adorable kids at all?" "You have to think of a ritual like a chemical reaction. There are specific elements required in specific amounts at specific stages. The offspring feeds on human will but requires a particular brew for nourishment. Not mere terror, but love and then betrayal, and the unique brand of fear and hatred that follows that sequence. It's like how we exploit a chili pepper. It develops harsh chemicals as a survival mechanism to deter insects, but we harvest them as spice." "All right, so what would the consequence be of setting off the bomb in the millibut's larva shoot?" "We have no way of knowing, but I think it is reasonable to say that the possible outcomes range from no effect at all to an entire egg sac full of unseen larvae hatching simultaneously. What is important is that I have no reason to believe it would actually harm the entity itself." "Well, we can't just let 11 of these bastards out into the world to keep chewing on their parents, so what do we do?" "Remember my creed. No action from ignorance. We need data, and therefore we need time. So, we keep the larvae in a location in which we can control them, and above all, keep them safe. He was interrupted by an eruption of gunshots and screams from above. Amy. Amy spun toward the chorus of bayings and screaming children from the hilltop. As it turned out, Non hadn't abandoned undisclosed to its fate. They apparently just needed some time to regroup. This, Amy thought, would have been fantastic news 30 seconds ago. The darkness above was illuminated by flashing threads of piercing light, like somebody had dropped a box of fireworks on a campfire. Amy took off up the steep path again, and she had the thought that she needed to get her little noodle thighs into a Stairmaster if she was going to do this kind of work. The creepy black cloaks had traded in their futuristic beam weapons for even more elaborate guns that fired handfuls of that hellish burning metal. She could smell the sulfur. They had gone right after the school bus. The remaining members of the biker gang, who were not big believers in passive resistance during the best of times, had responded with shotguns. With each shot that was fired, the children inside the bus shrieked in terror. At the moment Amy crested the hill, one of the bikers pounded on the side of the bus with his palm and screamed for the driver to go. Just go. Non had blocked the road with two of their trucks, but only in one direction. The bus went in reverse and backed up past the church, continuing on the looping road, going backward all the way while the cloaks peppered the front of the vehicle with brimstone. The bikers started hurling buckshot at the cloaks' backs in the pitched battle that ensued. The bus slipped off into the night. The boys came up behind her. Amy was about to say, "Thank God they got away," when David said, "Shit, the larvae are loose." John said, "I did think it's time to admit that containment is not our strong suit." The cloaks were retreating to their vehicles, and, a moment later, a non-truck rumbled past, in pursuit of the school bus, soon followed by a second, and a third. There were shouts and the noise of Harley-Davidson exhaust coming to life, then a chrome line of bikes went snaking down the road after the trucks. Detective Bowman's SUV was next, followed by a squad car, sirens blaring into the night. It was quite the parade. Amy watched the herd of noisy lights disappear into the darkness, and in that moment the downpour chose to resume. She'd lost her raincoat at some point and couldn't recall when. Cold water ran down her back. David said, "Get to the Jeep, let's go," but no one was answering his call. Amy looked to see where everyone had gone and found John, Marconi, and Joy all huddled together in the rain nearby, all muttering urgent commands to each other, standing over something. Amy went over to them. Ted Knoll was kneeling in the grass. Lying there in front of him was his daughter. Maggie was trying to stifle a cry, taking rapid breaths, her little chest heaving. Ted, in a calm, controlled voice, told her he was going to lift her shirt to get a look. The moment he did so, Maggie started wailing. She had a cluster of smoldering dime-sized holes in her belly. The projectiles were still burning inside her, tendrils of smoke drifting out. Amy moved closer and could both hear and smell sizzling meat. David walked up and said, "Oh, fuck." Loretta emerged from the RV, saw her daughter, and came apart. Oh, God, no. Oh, please, God." Marconi said, "We have to move her. Get her in the RV, now. I have medical equipment." David clearly seemed to think this was a horrible idea, but still helped haul the girl inside, through the RV's kitchenette, into that cramped little lounge area near the back. They laid Maggie gently onto the narrow fold-out sofa. Her shirt was a crimson rag. John said to Ted, "Don't worry, this guy's a doctor." Ted said, "He looked right at her. Fucker had a mask like a little baby. Looked her right in the eyes and pulled the trigger." "I know, man. They'll keep coming," Ted said. "If I don't stop them, they'll keep coming. Keep her safe, you hear me? You keep her safe or it's on you." What are you—" Ted turned and ran out of the RV, John yelling after him. Amy sprinted to the door of the RV just as the camouflage pickup pulled up, Ted's army buddy at the wheel. Ted leaped into the bed of the truck and they tore off after the convoy. Behind Amy, little Maggie was howling while her father became a shrinking pair of taillights that were quickly swallowed by the night. Amy said, "We have to get her to a hospital." She was interrupted by a gunshot, the glass in the open door exploding right next to her face.